So this is really awesome for me because right now I'm going to get to wax poetic and be really, really, really thrilled about two things that make so much of a difference in my life. The first one is, oh my gosh, I'm geeking out, practice culture, okay? And the second one is the arts. And so a couple of things you also need to know about me. I have this really strange, well, maybe not strange, or maybe you guys do it too, but I have this habit of taking 8.5 by 11 pieces of paper and ripping them into quarters, and I have a stack of them on my desk, or in my purse, or in my car, or at home. And what I do is when stuff occurs to me, I have to get it out of my head because I'm thinking about it all the time. So I write it down, and then I stash it wherever I happen to be. So they're in my desk, they're in my pockets, they're in the little glove compartment of my car. And if you are a neat freak like my husband, this drives you insane. This genesis of this talk actually came about online a few months ago, and I have a few of you to thank for kind of putting me up to this and also making me think that I could do this in 10 minutes, which is really stupid. So we're going to go as quick as we can, and I'm going to apologize right now. If I missed something, just come find me after because I may not make sense at the end of 10 minutes. So after UBC last year, I was in withdrawal on the airplane, okay? And there are lots of you around here nodding because I know you guys were all in withdrawal too. And let me tell you, goat fudge is an amazing antidote for that. Only if you can get it through the security guys at TSA. But what I did on the plane was I had a piece of paper in a notebook, so I ripped it out. And I wrote down what it was about UBC that I absolutely loved. And I wrote down, people were not afraid of change. People were okay with coaching. People were okay with taking risks when they were calculated and they were things that they thought were going to improve their lives. And people like to work in groups. And in brackets at the bottom of that, I actually wrote down, this seems like my ideal clinic employee. I also wrote down, notice I didn't write down, practices good quality medicine. And I folded it up and I put it in the coat of my pocket, which is the one I used to travel with, so I don't wear it very often, and thank goodness I didn't put it through the wash. So now the other part of this is I, in all my spare time, which you can all kind of relate to, and that whole red dot thing is, so in all my spare time, I actually volunteer for a couple of arts organizations in my hometown, and these are really, really important for me. This is my outside place where I don't have to be a mom and where I don't have to be a veterinarian. And I volunteer with the Ottawa Youth Orchestra, okay? I have the very, very, low-level job of being the orchestra and personnel manager for 80 kids who are between the ages of 14 and 18 who play classical music. And let me tell you something, you want to talk about a group of world-beater, amazing kids, this is it, okay? These are kids that go on to be entrepreneurs, they go on to be doctors, they go on to be lawyers, they go on to be business owners, and they excel at what they do. And actually, and there's a few in there actually who, and just to give you an idea of the level of this orchestra, every single one of these kids, I have no doubt, should they have chosen a career in music, would have gone on to a major music school in the States or in Canada, and they would have gotten a scholarship. That's how good these kids are, okay? So we're gonna backtrack here a little bit. Every time we have alumni, and they write us back all the time, and they send us emails, and they're fantastic, right? Because they tell us how successful they've been, and then the next thing they say is, we learned the skills we needed to be successful in our careers while we were in the orchestra. And I happened to get one of these letters about 3 months after I got home from UBC. And it was at that point that I happened to throw that coat on because I was taking a trip somewhere and I pulled this piece of paper out of my pocket and I had bells going off in my head. Because I said, wow, this is a subset of kids that's just amazing. They go on to be world beaters, and hey, these are the people I want to hire to work with me. And so here's why I think you need to hire artists. The very first thing is they work really, really well in groups, right? We talk about teamwork. We talk about culture. These are individuals who have to excel at what they do, and you put them together in a group, and they have to form a cohesive whole that's bigger than the sum of the individual parts. Okay. Well, what else? Because that alone doesn't quite do it for me. So the next thing I started thinking about was, what do those people have to do to get to that level? And I'm going to stop myself actually because I forgot to say one thing, which is that when I use the word musician here, I also mean dancers, singers, visual artists. And come talk to me about that one because that one's really cool. I have a couple of them working for me right now and they're amazing. And so anybody that's actually had any kind of formalized arts training, okay? And actors, sorry, improv people. So when I say musician, I'm referring to the group as a whole. It just comes off my tongue easier. So then the second thing that happens is we talk about dedication of these people, okay? There's statistics that tell us that in order to become competent at any one task, you spend 10,000 hours learning that task. 10,000 hours. You don't do this on a whim. You do not achieve at a high level on something like this without dedication. The other thing that I really love about these guys is they're brave. Oh my gosh, they are so brave. They throw a little bit of themselves out there every single time they have to give a performance, or act out a role, or produce a piece of visual art that they put up on a wall in a gallery and say, hey, critique this little piece of me. That takes guts. And let me tell you, they're pretty darn resilient because every so often, someone trashes what you do. Worse yet, every so often, here's the ironic line in the whole speech, by the way, you suffer a colossal memory lapse while you're standing on stage, right? And I actually kind of toyed with the wisdom of whether I should put that in the talk or not. But let me tell you what happens when that happens to a young person who is actually actively studying, and that happens to them. They have a teacher. They have a coach. They have a mentor. This is someone that they turn to in their moment of crisis who turns around and says to them, here's how you make that a positive experience, and here's how you make it better. I would kill for a bunch of employees like that, okay? And what we all have to understand is, I'm also now suffering that colossal memory lapse because there's one more thing I'm supposed to tell you, but I can't remember it. So we're just gonna move on. And we're talking about now coachability. And coachability is something that we all as managers actually have a real problem with. We turn around and we say, I really wish this person would just listen to me. Maybe it's because we're not presenting it right and we don't know how to coach. But maybe we're also trying to coach people who aren't used to being coached. And that's something that you learn, right? If you've been taking music lessons from the time you were 3, you're very, very good at listening to feedback from your teacher who says to you, hey, you need to play this a little differently, or you need to try a little bit of a different technique here. And the person says, yeah, cool, that's great, it's gonna make everything better, I'll try it. And I would argue that having a group full of people like that to have as your team at your hospital is awesome. So you know what I did? I went back to my team because I think my team's amazing. And I'm hoping at some point I'm going to get to show them this video so that they actually know that I said it in public, but they are amazing. I went back and I looked at the resumes for all of those team members that I had still in the filing cabinet because yes, I am almost 50 and I can't not deal with paper. But we went through and we looked at what they wrote down on the second page of their resume after their teaching and their schooling and where they had worked, and we looked at extracurricular. And the interesting thing to me is that 50% of my really amazing team, who's incredibly coachable and who's incredibly resilient, they had training in the arts at a high level. These were people who were involved in national level orchestras, national level choirs, citywide, regional competitions for improv. And I went, huh, that's pretty cool. I went back and I asked them all, any of you had coaching like that you didn't write down on your resume? 80% of my team had previous coaching at a high school level. This wasn't even at college. This is high school. So I'm gonna challenge you, start looking for this, okay? I promise you, you are not gonna be disappointed by what you find. And just a show of hands, how many people in this room had artistic training when they were in high school? Do you see? This is your tribe. We need to look for this. Thanks very much.